Could this terrifying encounter with one of the most elusive creatures in North America have been buried for over 4 decades? And if so, what other unknown creatures are hiding in our national parks? Welcome to Parks Unseen. I'm your host, Liam Wolf. After the explosive report we uncovered in our last episode, we began hearing from hundreds of viewers around the country, each with their own story to share. We heard about unusual sightings.
It was winter in the middle of the desert. I mean, what the heck could that have been?
Unexplainable sounds.
This was unlike any wild animal that I've ever seen before.
And shocking encounters from long ago that have become part of local lore in small mountain towns.
Everyone who grew up in this town knows the story. Everyone.
If you have an encounter to report, we want to hear from you too. Visit the About section on our channel for instructions on how to submit your story. It's clearer now, more than ever, the importance of documenting our experiences, sharing our knowledge, and destigmatizing the unexplainable to keep our community safe. We received one call in particular that caught our attention, and we knew we had to share it with you. It was from a man we'll call James.
My name is Brian Walker, which I'm giving for the purposes of verification, if you need that sort of thing, but I'd rather you not share my real name, please. Thank you. You have my permission to use this recording and the report detailed herein. I'm from upstate New York. I moved to Portland, Maine when I was like 5, and Portland opened a door that led to a passion and a love for the great outdoors.
James began his formal career with the National Park Service doing seasonal trail maintenance in Acadia National Park before spending nearly 2 decades as a forestry technician in North Dakota. 8 years ago, James traded in his outdoor work boots for more traditional footwear and moved his family to northern Michigan for a managerial position. Having spent his entire adult life immersed in the day-to-day field operations of parks, trails, and major wilderness outposts, James is no stranger to our vast community of believers, skeptics, and enthusiasts who are passionate about exploring the unknown.
I've never actually had a direct encounter myself, unfortunately. I had always hoped that I would, as a kid, my brothers and I, we used to hike out into the woods, and we would have this recurring game where we would discover Bigfoot. We would run into him, and we would come up with all these different ways to lure him back into our backyard. And we would protect him from evil hunters. Anyway, nowadays, as an adult, I consider myself an open-minded realist. Although I have to admit that I'm a bit skeptical about some cryptids. But considering the amount of time I've spent out in the field, man, some of the weird things I have seen and heard over the years, and the stories I've heard from, other hikers and rangers, there's just no explanation for some of these things. I believe in science, I believe in biology and ecology and evolution of the species. I've studied it. I know how easy it is for cells to mutate. That's what drives the evolution of species. And when this happens deep in the wilderness to a species that's already incredibly elusive, think about it. We're discovering new species all the time. It can easily take years, even decades, before the scientific community can legitimize it with proof. This world is just far too big and mysterious a place for science to keep up with sometimes.
James has been privy to some astounding reports over the years while working in the field, but it wasn't until he moved to northern Michigan to start his new position that everything changed. James was just getting settled into his new life working indoors when he stumbled upon something hidden away in an old box, something that chilled him to the core.
We were preparing to move our department to a new location a few miles away and had one last storage closet to go through. This was essentially a closet of low priority files, non-urgent files like minor on-site accident reports, lost and found, that sort of thing. Finally, I get to this last box. It's a box of old lost and found items that no one has ever claimed. It's way up on the top shelf, all the way in the corner. And I open it, and sitting right on top of, one muddy shoe, a stuffed bear, a water bottle, a set of keys, and other knickknacks, is this crisp brown manila envelope, the kind they actually used in this office back in the day. I'd been seeing these old envelopes and file folders all day, so I recognized the style of it, and it struck me because it was just so out of place amongst all that dirty bric-a-brac. It's just sitting there on top of the pile. I felt like it was staring at me, in a way, like it was waiting for me, like no one had ever opened it before. It was just waiting for me to find it, and it was startling, like how when you turn a corner or open a door and someone's standing there. So I open the envelope and reach inside, and the first thing I pull out is this piece of paper that had been ripped out of an old notebook, and there's a handwritten note on it. It says, I'm never going to forget this, it says, "To whoever finds this, this happened. I saw it with my own 2 eyes. I am not crazy or overtired or delusional, but I need to keep my job. I hope you have better luck than I did, and I hope no one else gets hurt. I'm sorry." I tell ya, even now, just thinking about it, a shiver went across the back of my neck. I must have read that note 100 times since I found it. It's burned into my memory.
James admitted he didn't really know what to do with his discovery. Being new to the area and to his position, he didn't know his colleagues and supervisors well enough to gauge how they might respond to a report like this. So he tucked it away, keeping it quiet and biding his time until he had a better sense of things.
So I set aside this cryptic note, and I pull out the remaining contents of the envelope. And the first thing I see is the Polaroid photo. It was blurry and overexposed, but my blood went cold when I saw that photo. It took me a second to understand what I was seeing. And heck, I still don't really understand what I'm seeing, because I've never seen an animal that looked like that before. And you gotta remember, I'd been working as a forestry technician. I'd been out in the field for 18 years, so I'd seen it all. But I'm staring down at this photo of an animal some distance away, and it looks like a cross between like a wolf and like a gorilla or a Sasquatch or something. It's standing on 2 legs, but it's covered in matted fur, and the head and the snout is shaped like a coyote or a wolf or something. Over the years, I had heard about all kinds of sightings and encounters and unusual creatures. And ironically, this part of the country, we're up near Pictured Rocks National Lakeshore. This is an area known for several Bigfoot sightings, which, I believe you actually referenced in a previous episode. And of course, I had heard of a wolfman or a dogman at some point in time, but I I was in such a state of shock at that photo, I hadn't yet connected the dots that, hey, I'm in Michigan now, and it's like dogman country. Just as weird as the photo is the report itself. It's brief, not very detailed, and it was difficult for me to decipher the scribbled handwriting. You know, I do remember the date was 11/11/77, and I always think about this incident every year on November 11th, 11/11/77. But yeah, you know, the report was short and to the point. It said, an unusual encounter with a species of unknown origin, possibly a wolf with mange or an animal mutation? Question mark?
Unfortunately, we were unable to obtain the ranger's report. The original hard copy was misplaced years ago, and the digital scan was recently lost when an extreme weather event caused irreparable damage to the hard drive on which it was saved. However, James vividly recalls the ranger's chilling encounter as he described it in the report.
There were 2 or 3 more sentences. He described the animal as being agile and unusually tall when standing on its hind legs. The ranger also heard a terrible scream, which he thought sounded almost human, like the scream of a young woman, but he never found evidence of a struggle or injuries, blood on the ground, or anything like that, so he suspected it was the creature itself making that horrible screaming sound.
Although the legend of the Dogman is now a well-known and celebrated piece of Michigan folklore, that wasn't always the case. It may surprise you to learn that this creature was unknown to most of the modern world until very late in the 20th century. They're said to have been stalking the area around the Manistee River since the days when the Odawa tribes lived there. Although only a handful of sightings and encounters were reported prior to the late 1980s, that doesn't mean more encounters didn't occur, only that those early accounts were either not taken seriously or they were intentionally buried by government officials in an effort to avoid causing a public panic. Or perhaps sightings were simply too few and far between to generate any real interest or attention from the media. That is, until we reached the internet era, when even folks in the most remote corners of the country could connect in real time and share their stories with other true believers. Perhaps it's no surprise that the ranger report James discovered hadn't seen the light of day until now. Whether the ranger was afraid of repercussions from his supervisors, ridicule from his peers, or harassment from the general public if the media caught wind of his experience, he was clearly terrified of something. We'll never really know the circumstances surrounding his encounter or why he buried it away for someone else to find decades later. All we know is that the sheer number of Dogman sightings across the US and Canada in the interim years make it clear that something is out there, something as yet unexplainable by modern science. In Michigan specifically, reports of sightings first trickled in quietly throughout the 1950s in Allegan County. Then in the 1960s, reports of seeing the beast came from Cross Village, Big Rapids, and Manistee County. A notable turning point in Dogman's infamy came in 1987, thanks to radio DJ Steve Cook of Traverse City, Michigan. In what began as an April Fool's Day joke, DJ Steve Cook recorded a song called The Legend about encounters with the mystical cryptid through the ages. Although the stories within the lyrics were imagined and invented by the DJ himself, after the song's release, dozens of calls came into the radio station from his listeners with stories of their own encounters. One of the many calls that Steve Cook received was from longtime Michigan native Robert Fortney. 50 years earlier in 1937, 17-year-old Robert Fortney was fishing along the Muskegon River in Paris, Michigan, when a pack of what appeared to be large feral dogs emerged from the woods. Fortney remained silent, but the sensitive noses of the dogs quickly picked up his scent. Since he had been small game hunting earlier in the day, Fortney had his loaded rifle nearby. As the dogs approached, they assumed the group posture of a pack on a hunt. Fortney picked up the gun and fired a shot into the air. The dogs cringed and turned to slink back into the forest, all except one, a huge black dog with unusual eyes. "They were blue," said Fortney. "What kind of dog has blue eyes?" The large canine and Fortney considered each other for a long moment, less than 10 feet separating them. Fortney fired another shot over the head of the strange dog. Then, to Fortney's shock and amazement, the creature stood up on two legs and cast a glare that sent shivers down Fortney's spine before it ran away on two legs. "It reared up on its hind legs and stared at me," said Fortney in a phone interview in 1987. "It may be that I was just scared, but I swear that dog was smiling at me." The legend quickly became the radio station's most requested song, surfacing hundreds of reports of Dogman encounters in the years since its release and officially propelling the Dogman into the public's consciousness. Whether propagated by mythology in the song or just pure coincidence of the dated reports themselves, the Michigan Dogman seems to appear most frequently in years ending in 7, with a surge of sightings spiking in a 10-year cycle, perhaps owing to the mating or migration habits of this unusual species. There are some credible theories as to why encounters with the species started occurring more frequently in the late 60s and early 70s in the Upper Peninsula of Michigan. The Manistee and Lake Superior Railroad ceased operations in 1968. 2 years later, the first rail trail in Michigan was established with haywire grade, spanning across Alger and Schoolcraft counties. The sudden quiet, followed by the slow conversion of the railroad into a year-round multi-use trail, created the perfect conditions for a change in migration patterns for many woodland creatures. Whether the Dogman was displaced from its original habitat, or decided to venture out in search of new food sources when this unique opportunity presented itself, one may never know. The timing, however, is auspicious. Other theories have been explored by Linda S. Godfrey, one of America's foremost authorities on modern-day monsters. The cryptozoologist famously entered the world of the paranormal when, while working as a reporter for a small Wisconsin newspaper in 1991, she heard reports of a strange, werewolf-like creature that had been spotted in the area. Her story about the beast of Bray Road spread like wildfire, launching Godfrey into a new career as a prolific author and investigator, with 18 published books on strange creatures, phenomena, and the people who've encountered them. She appeared on many national TV shows, such as the History Channel's Monster Quest, Inside Edition, and Sean Hannity, as well as many podcasts and radio shows. Godfrey often compared the sightings from Manistee, Michigan, to those from her own experience with the Bray Road Beast, as seen in the 2018 documentary film, The Bray Road Beast, validating the encounters and experiences of hundreds of people across the country. Godfrey's latest project before her death in 2022 is a documentary film called Return to Wildcat Mountain, Wisconsin's Black Panther Nexus, which can be streamed on Prime Video via the link below. Thanks to our friends at Audiobooks Now, we have some discount codes listed in the video description. If you'd like to listen to Godfrey's fascinating encounters in some of her most popular audiobooks. There have been photos, videos, and even audio recordings posted online from alleged encounters with the Dogman and other unidentifiable creatures. The legitimacy of these photos and videos can be debated, But in this digital age, we're more primed than ever to finally catch a clear glimpse of the elusive species, and perhaps, with the right trail camera and the keen eye of a skilled hunter, irrefutable scientific proof is within arm's reach. So where is this unusual canine species most likely to be caught? As recently as October 2023, an organization called the North American Dogman Project created this Google map, pinpointing 163 reported sightings in the US and Canada alone, and generating over 1 million views in the 2 months between its publication and this recording. NADP's website has a fascinating collection of reports, photos, news articles, and other evidentiary documentation of the dog man, its behavioral habits, and its potential whereabouts. Are we dealing with a highly intelligent creature that has evolved and adapted throughout the years to the ever-growing world, pushing it deeper into uncharted territory, avoiding our ability to capture it with current technology? Or do we simply love this campfire monster myth and want the legend to remain just that? A legend, a story, an icon. What do you believe? Thank you for joining us on this expedition into the enigmatic realm of our national parks. Until next time, stay curious and keep your eyes open. We look forward to hearing about your own bone-chilling encounters with the unknown. In the wild, you never know what secrets may be lurking, waiting to be unveiled in the great expanse of parks unseen.